Could a U.S. philanthropic organization be the unseen hand behind Kenya's unprecedented unrest? Or is this a smokescreen for a nation's internal strife? This is the burning question as Kenya grapples with deadly protests, government accusations, and a population on the brink of desperation. In recent weeks, Kenya has been engulfed in a wave of youth-led protests that have shaken the nation to its core. Sparked by President William Ruto's proposed tax hikes, the demonstrations have evolved into a broader outcry against systemic corruption, economic hardship, and poor governance. Despite Ruto's withdrawal of the contentious finance bill and a dramatic cabinet reshuffle, the unrest has only intensified. The situation took a surprising turn when Ruto accused the Ford Foundation, a US-based philanthropic organization, of stoking the protests. But is there any merit to these claims, or are they a convenient diversion from the real issues? I am Rain Smith, and for more on this unfolding story, we turn to our correspondent, Arafat Musa, who has been following the developments closely. Arafat.
Thanks, Rain. The protests began in mid-June when President Ruto's government announced a $2.7 billion tax reform aimed at addressing Kenya's financial woes. However, for many Kenyans, this was the final straw. Years of stagnating wages, rising inflation, and rampant corruption had already stretched the populace to its limit. The proposed tax hikes ignited a tinderbox of frustration, leading thousands to the streets. The demonstrations quickly escalated, resulting in violent clashes between protesters and police. Tragically, more than 50 people have lost their lives, with many more missing and arbitrarily detained. The severity of the police response, including the use of live ammunition, has drawn widespread condemnation and further fueled public anger. Amidst this turmoil, President Ruto made a startling accusation. The Ford Foundation was funding the protest. Speaking to a large crowd, Ruto claimed the organization was sponsoring violence and anarchy in Kenya, though he provided no evidence to support his allegations. The Ford Foundation swiftly denied these charges, reiterating its commitment to non-partisan support for civil society and peaceful advocacy. Analysts have also been quick to point out that Ruto's accusations appear to be an attempt to deflect blame from his administration's own failures. Political analysts like Jervin Naidu from Oxford Economics Africa suggest that Ruto's move to fire almost his entire cabinet was a strategic effort to shift responsibility amid mounting pressure. The opposition, led by veteran politician Raila Odinga, has been vocal in its criticism of Ruto's government. Odinga has called for a dialogue to address the protesters' grievances, but his overtures have been largely rejected by the youth, leading to demonstrations. These young activists, often referred to as Gen Z, have dismissed both Ruto and Odinga as out of touch with their struggles. They are demanding not just policy changes, but systemic overhaul and Ruto's resignation. Interestingly, despite calls for dialogue, the opposition has ruled out forming a coalition with the government. This decision underscores the deep-seated mistrust and dissatisfaction that permeates the Kenyan political landscape. In a bid to regain control, Kenya's police have banned demonstrations in Nairobi, citing credible intelligence that organized criminal groups have infiltrated the protests. Now, this move has been met with fierce resistance from activists who argue that the ban is unconstitutional and an attempt to stifle dissent. The heavy-handed approach of the police has been a significant point of contention. Reports of extrajudicial killings, abductions, and arbitrary arrests have cast a dark shadow over the government's handling of the unrest. International human rights organizations and domestic watchdogs have called for investigations into these abuses, but the government has remained largely unresponsive. Ruto's accusations against the Ford Foundation have the potential to strain Kenya's relations with the United States, though experts believe the long-standing alliance is resilient enough to weather this storm. Kenya plays a pivotal role in U.S. security interests in Africa, particularly in counter-terrorism efforts. President Joe Biden's recent proposal to designate Kenya as a major non-NATO ally underscores the strategic importance of this relationship. However, the ongoing protests and allegations of human rights abuses could cast a long shadow over this partnership. As the situation in Kenya continues to unfold, it remains to be seen how these dynamics will impact both domestic stability and international relations. The situation in Kenya is a complex tapestry of economic hardship, political maneuvering, and social unrest. While President Ruto's accusations against the Ford Foundation have added a new layer of intrigue, the root causes of the protests lie much closer to home. As Kenyans continue to fight for a better future, the world watches closely, hoping for resolution that addresses the underlying issues rather than merely treating the symptoms. Is Kenya on the brink of a significant political shift, or will these protests be quelled by force? The answer remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the voices of Kenya's youth have ignited a movement that demands attention and action. Now back to you, Rain.
Thank you, Arafat. While our focus has been on the turmoil in Kenya and the allegations against the Ford Foundation, we encourage you to share your insights on the broader implications of international involvement in domestic protests. Do you believe external influences are significantly impacting Kenya's political landscape, or is this primarily an internal struggle for change? How should Kenya balance its long-standing relationship with the U.S. while addressing domestic grievances? Your thoughts and opinions are valuable. Share them in the comments below. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the New Africa channel.